Good morning, folks. Sorry I'm running a little late. I had something to do this morning. We'll give you a wee second or two to get on board, and then we'll get this broadcast underway. Okay. Just get the Facebook this morning as well. We'll give you a wee second or two to get on. And that way I can pop between the two streams and keep an eye on the comments. So good morning, folks. As I say, I'll give you a few seconds to get on board. It takes a wee while for people to find me because Facebook is making it extremely difficult. And as the majority of my audience is on Facebook, that's bloody annoying. Lovely cup of coffee. There we go. Morning, Struthers. Morning, Jim. Morning, Lenny. We'll have a wee pop across. Morning, Mr. Mulligan. Morning, Kirsty. Morning, Susie. Morning, Barbara. Morning, Robert. Morning, Alan. Morning, Neil. Alexander. Fiona. Tina. Stuart. Linda. Rose. Callum. Dave. Neil. Alex. Brian. Put my glasses on, we'll see better. Donald. Right, so there's a good few on board. There's a lot more on board. Good morning, George. Morning, Lorna. Morning, Joe. A lot more is on board than what's shown on my screen. So let's get this broadcast underway. It's Indy Truck Davey out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is overcast, drizzly, and 14 degrees. Okay, that's a weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, look at your own bloody windy. All right, so let's get this news review properly underway. This is the news review for the 15th of the 8th, 2022, better known to you and I as yesterday. Right, Monday started with two themes in the rags: energy bill plea and Scotland's growing tax gap. Now, on the energy bill plea, power chiefs want aid to families snappy. They want it doubled, right? And David says, aye, I bet they do want it doubled. A bigger transfer of our money, our taxes, to be transferred to the shareholders of the energy providers, taking even more money out of the public services. Now, Scottish Power boss Keith Anderson wants the price frozen where it is. Sir Keir Starmer would like it capped and frozen for the next 6 months. Now, this is the interesting thing about Starmer, right? Starmer wants to cap it for 6 months, come back to the old cap system. Now, we're now on a 3-monthly system where they can raise it every 3 months. Starmer just wants to revert back to capping it for 6 months at a time. They want the freeze on now. The freeze on right now. Now, this is at a point where 1 in 3 families in the UK live in fuel poverty. He doesn't want it reduced. He doesn't want it taken into public hands, where we have power for the people, produced by the people, on behalf of the people, and for the benefit of the people. No, Starmer doesn't want any of that stuff. What Starmer wants is a price freeze cap back at every 6 months. That's his answer to the energy crisis. And apparently the aid package he's offering is worth about £43 per household. Well, guess what? If you scrap your Labour membership, that'll save you 56 quid a year. There you bloody well go. All right. So, Starmer, the Red Tory, centre-right leader of the so-called Party of the People, doesn't want power in the public hands. Now, to quote Mick Lynch here, and I've said this before, and I have to say I'm becoming quite an admirer of Mick Lynch, but what I will say is Mick Lynch is right. He thinks Starmer's Labour Party is just a different version to the Tory Party. Well, we up here in Scotland have been saying that for a long time. You know, we call them the Red Tories up here. Okay. So there you go. The power companies are screaming for more state aid to be transferred to them. It's not coming to the people, folks. It's not. You know, they called it the windfall tax and the money coming to the people. But it didn't come to the people. It passed through the people, the corporate giants. It's basically a £5 billion subsidy to the energy producers, taken from the energy, the big energy, oil and gas giants. Guess what? They've all got big shares in the energy producers. Right, anyway. Now, the tax gap in Scotland fish is from the Daily Fail, and no doubt echoed in the Express, just no on the front page, alright. Now, the Fail claims high earners to flee Scotland if Sturgeon doesn't bring tax bans in Scotland, or tax revenues in Scotland in line with RUK. Now, Davy nearly fell off his chair laughing at this one. Now, this story is an old story, and we had this the last time when we introduced the new tax system with the 5 bands in it, right? And there was a big debate on called K about it, right? Now, I've explained this before. High earners in Scotland, they pay a little more in tax in the top 2 bands, all right? But in return, they've no prescription fees. The savings that saves the average family of 4 £138 a year, apparently. The early learning that they get here in Scotland, as opposed to if they flee to England, saves them £4,800 per year. The lower council tax on big properties saves them thousands a year. No water charges saves them in a small house that had 4 in it, £668 a year. There's no dental charges, saving them £688 a year on dental checkups. Right? There's no travel costs on buses for children 12 to 22, saving them, well, let's say, we don't really know. The scheme's not been up and running that long, but saving them hundreds of pounds a year if mum, pa, and 2 kids are getting the bus into the town centre. And when the kids get to uni age, no tuition fee, saving them £9,000 a year. Scottish degrees are 4 years long, so that saves them 36 grand on the courses. The rich up here are not paying thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds more in tax each year. They're getting thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of benefits. So they're not fleeing anywhere. And on that particular Call K programme where we debated this, when this was being debated, the tax system had already changed. We were talking about putting income tax up by a couple of pence in the higher 2 brackets. And those in the highest pay bands in Scotland actually went on to Call K and schooled the BBC on the benefits they get for being in Scotland and paying a couple of pennies more a year in tax. They get massive benefits. And I didn't talk about the baby box and all these things that they get while they're here. The £100 per child to help on school uniform charges. That sort of thing. I don't know whether that's means tested or not right enough, because I don't have kids going to school. Okay, so actually, the higher earners here in Scotland are vastly better off than what they would be if they'd moved their families to England. In fact, one guy who was living in the Isle of Lewis on that particular programme said that he commuted 2-3 times a month to his office in London, but him and his family lived in even the Isle of Lewis for better services in Scotland. Wow. Brilliant, eh? Right, moving on. And Scotland, moving on, Monday back here in Scotland, and the period product law comes into effect to end period poverty across Scotland. Alright, period products to be made available for free in public buildings and institutions, meaning schools, libraries, council buildings, hospitals, universities, doctors, surgeries, that sort of place, anywhere where the public might want to use the toilet or the public can access to go to the toilet. And the free sanitary products will be available in these public buildings for anybody to get off the street that needs them, which is a fantastic thing. The fact that our children were missing out, female children were missing out in school because they were too poor for period products is absolutely outrageous. So the fact that they now have period products available in school, meaning that lasses don't have to miss their education, is a wonderful thing. Now, we have to give the plaudits to this one to actually an opposition party. As you probably see, Sarah, when she cleaned my office, added a few additions like my campaign rosette for the SNP up there. But this particular policy was the idea of Monica Lennon of the Labour Party, and kudos to her. And of course, right up until the bill hit Parliament, the Tories were screaming, waste of money, waste of money, waste of money. Funny enough, when it hit the floor of the Scottish Parliament, it was unanimously passed. Meaning all 8 Tories screaming, called waste of public money, actually voted it through. All right. Also, Monday, new COVID vaccine approved. It's hoped that this one might actually stop the virus. All right. Now, let's see. Apparently, this one is resistant to the first COVID a virus or variation, and it's also resistant to the Omicron variations of which we've been many. All right. The vaccine is made by Moderna and will be rolled out to the over 50s and the vulnerable plus healthcare workers starting in September. Remember, folks, COVID's not going away. Numbers are stabilising, but they're up and down a wee bit actually. But still high. It was 5,280 new cases detected in Scotland last week. 1,028 people are in hospital. We are 11 in intensive care, and I believe it was 81 deaths in Scotland last week. All right. Now, the ONS says 1 in 20 Scots are carrying the virus, or 5% of the population, folks. So it's not went anywhere. Now, I've heard a lot of people saying they're not taking any more vaccines. Well, that's a personal choice, and I can understand it. I really do understand it. But if it's I'll have a look at the data, folks, on this new vaccine before I decide whether I'm going to take it or not. So I'm not going to say go and get vaccinated at this point in time because I don't know enough about it. And I don't have an awful lot of time to study it either. We're waiting on the info dump hitting the shelf, if you like. So if any of you people out there are aware of Moderna releasing the info dump on this new vaccine, then let us know and send me maybe a link to it. We'll use our PDF file. Right. Moving on, on Monday, Dockers in Liverpool joined Dockers at Felixstowe, which is the UK's biggest container base, voting for strike action. All right. The UK port system was already struggling. It's about to get a lot worse. The knock-on in supply chain will be massive. Shortages of goods will be expected. And I think the trade unions could well win this war. At this point in time, strikes are happening right across. Now, if they really want to, if the trade unions really want to bring this government in and start reforming how things are done, so that not so much of the wealth is being stolen by the very, very richest, then they might want to coordinate their strike action. It won't quite be right across the board national strike. But I mean, if we get BT, Post Office, Rail, Dockers, and anybody else out there who's voting for strike action, local authorities, central governments, union of journalists, they're all voting for strike action. If you can just sit down at the TUC and the STUC and agree to coordinate their action, we could well see things change. Right. Monday, ScotRail announces that strikes by RMT members involved in the dispute with the Network Rail are likely to bring Scotland's railways to a standstill on the 18th and the 20th of August. Now, this strike is more than just pay and conditions. Well, it's more than just pay, sorry. It's all about conditions, contracts, fair working practices, safety on the railways. People really have to understand what this is about. I mean, they're talking about shutting down ticket offices right across the whole of the rail network. That includes all the ticket offices in Scotland and Wales. And what that would mean is that there would be no staff at railway stations. That's bloody dangerous alone, never mind the fact they want to lay off half the maintenance teams for the railways. But you think about this. No staff, unstaffed railway stations. How does that disabled traveller get help onto the train? How does the person who's taking a turn for the worst in the railway station while waiting for the train get help? Where does a lost child in a big railway station turn to? What about somebody that's confused? This is absolute madness. Throwing Tapparat that they want to slash working conditions for those who survive it, by the way. The guards and things like that. These are all essential people. Railway stations should be labour intensive for a couple of reasons: public safety and making the journey a joy for the travelling public. But I mean, throwing Tapparat, they want to scrap half of maintenance workers, and what we're seeing here isn't modernisation. What we're seeing is the Network Rail turning into a death trap. That's what we're looking at. So the RMT are right on this one, as I say. But all these unions, if they want to really change how things are done, especially in the face of this cost of living crisis, then they have to coordinate their actions, organise. That's supposed to be what the TUC and the STUC do, but they don't. Trade union leaders barely bloody well talk to each other. And they're all disaffiliating for Labour at a rapid rate of knots. Right, moving on. Monday. That is the RMT strike. Right, moving on to the big story yesterday. This one cracked Davey up, all right. Moving on to the big story yesterday. And that is the Tory party hustings here in Perth today, right? No doubt the democracy riggers and deniers will be enjoying it because there's going to be a mass protest outside it, and unfortunately I can't make it. Both Sunak and Truss are promising to protect critics of the SNP and to hold the Scottish Government to greater scrutiny. Now that one had Davy pissing himself laughing. I mean, this one really did have Davy pissing himself laughing. But by what standard are they going to say they're scrutinising? To quote Brit Nat Lord, "We pissy pants George Folks, the SNP are making and have made Scottish public services better and manifestly better than in our UK." He was asked by the BBC a Pravda presenter, Gary Robertson, I think it was, do you think that's a bad thing? And what we George Folks said was no, but they're doing it deliberately. So how are they going to scrutinise our public institutions when their public institutions are manifestly worse? How are they going to scrutinise our public water company when 2.8 billion litres of water leak out of the leaky private infrastructure down that road every day? They haven't built any reservoirs. They're running out of water. They can't take water for the water courses because they're pumping raw sewage into it. So how are they going to scrutinise our water? We've got the finest water in Scotland and the UK. How are they going to scrutinise our Environmental Protection Agency when DEFRA is a failing organisation, whereas SEPA is the reason why we have clean water and clean countryside and fresh air? How are they going to scrutinise our education system when we've got the highest educated population in Europe? As we've already spoken about, the kids start a wee bit slow, but by the time they get to the end of secondary school and at university, we've got more university grads per capita than any other country in Europe. And then, of course, we have a public school infrastructure, whereas they're privatising their school infrastructure. So how do you scrutinise it? How do you compare it? What's the standards? You know, and we can go through them all. GP services will make more GPs per capita than they've got down that road. Police Scotland will get more cops. We've got crime at 43-year low. They've got rocketing crime. They only have 20,000 police officers. How do you measure it? Or Ambulance Service Scotland against the privatised ambulance service down that road? Or Dental Scotland, NHS Scotland, against the fee-paying dentists doing that, the people that have to pay fees to their dentists doing that road. How do you compare medicine free at the point of need, as opposed to prescription charges. You know, we could go on. How do you compare our updated, upgraded school infrastructure in public hands to their dilapidated school estate down that road? How do you compare our updated, modernised NHS estate up here compared to their dilapidated NHS infrastructure and estate down that road? We have improving infrastructure. They have failing infrastructure. We have investment in public services, and we do it through our own taxation. Thanks very much, because we have 5 bands and you only have 3. And we don't have so many tax dodgers up here. Our high earners are willing to stick a couple more pennies a year in the pot for the better standard of life and public services they get. How are these two Muppets in a failing Little England, which is 40 bits, has 1 in 5 children going to bed hungry every night, granny riding the bus to stay warm, run out of water because they privatised the utilities, can't go up for the water courses because they've fucking thrown all their shite into it, they've used it as a sewer. How do you compare like for like? We have higher standards of agriculture. We don't allow genetically modified foods. We can track the animal from the farm to the fork. What is it they're going to scrutinise? And by whose standards, when our standards are manifestly better than those of the Muppets south of the border? Oof. And the other thing they say they're going to do is they're going to whip Miss Sturgeon's arse and draw back the support for independence. Well, guess what the next article's all about? It's a surveyation poll out yesterday. And that surveyation poll said 1,200 people surveyed, by the way, here in Scotland. And it said it didn't matter which one of these 2 Muppets takes number 10. 25% of those polled were more likely to vote for independence no matter what one of them got in. Now, if that poll was typical of all other polls in Scotland, that would be a 50-50 split on independence. So you take that 50-50 split and add in that 25%, if it's typical polling, then that would put yes at between 69 and 75%. Give or take the margin of error. So, as to putting independence into reverse and putting the SNP in their place, I look forward to a debate between Miss Sturgeon and Liz Nice-Bit-Dim, because Liz Nice-Bit-Dim is heading for number 10. The reason she's heading there is because she's a much easier puppet to manipulate than Sunak. You can't buy a billionaire. You can't buy a millionaire. So if we add the AI, it's no bad. Right, so much greater scrutiny going to put the March for Independence into reverse. They're the reason why the march is on, and it's up. Right, moving on. Monday, in Fat Lazy Ponce over PM, he moves out of number 10 and into Checkers. Was that the price of making a fat, lazy criminal Ponce, Bojo the Clown, resign? We'll let you. Was he offered to be let with his wife out at Checkers, living his deluded wee life at Checkers, where he could pretend he's still the PM and operating everything by the puppet strings? Maybe he is still going to be PM. Maybe Liz Truss is the puppet. Maybe Bojo is going to be squatting in Checkers. And maybe he is really going to be making the decisions. Isn't that interesting? You know, also Monday, back here in Scotland, Democrats denying poverty pie hypocrite Anna Sarr versus SNP and Tory delays in backing a windfall tax on energy giants cost UK taxpayers 1.9 billion, which could have been spent aiding families in the cost of living crisis. Poverty pie Sarwar is no the brightest, is he? The windfall tax didn't help struggling families. It went from the oil and gas giants, as I said earlier, into the pockets of the energy producers. So if the windfall tax had come earlier, then the energy producers would have got it earlier. Two, although we do know that Sarwar is not the brightest, again, as I say, he claims to be on the side of the working class people, but won't pay his family business employees their living wage. Asked why not, Mr. Sarwar won't pay his family and business employees a living wage. He says because it's not a legal requirement. In other words, he's a fucking Tory. Unless somebody tells him he has to make people's lives bearable, then he's no fucking doing it. Champagne socialist? No. Red Tory. When I see that man on a picket line, it makes me want to throw up. As it runs right through my head every time I see that man at a rally or a picket or anything is, look at this hypocrite. Refuses to pay his own family's employees a living wage so that they can have a decent standard of living, and yet he's on picket lines. And he's working with trade unions. What they're doing, folks, is they're not actually working for the working people. They are in amongst the trade unions to block the trade unions from doing what they should be doing. And the fact that Sarwar won't allow his family business to be unionised, and the fact that he won't pay the living wage, tells you all you need to know about poverty pie. He's a hypocrite. So his claim that the transferring another 1.9 billion of our money to the profiteering energy giants is just a lot of pish. All right. Also, Monday, Police Scotland joined ASLEF train drivers in acknowledging that Scotland has a limited budget. The Police Federation said Police Scotland have accepted an improved offer of 5%. Also, Monday, Unison and GMB Council employees knocked back an improved 3.5% offer. Look, let's just settle this dispute right across Scotland at 5% and let the employees in the public sector and the employers in the public sector sit down and be pragmatic and say, listen, this really is stretching it to the limit, guys. This is as far as we can go. But if we can manage 5% for the train drivers and the cops, then we'll need to manage 5% across the board. We all know that they deserve more, but let's show that shower of shite down that road. A functioning government, a functioning a local government where we have pragmatic employers and pragmatic employees who sit down together and say, like, it's either Joe Boggs loses his job or we compromise properly. Either services will be damaged or we compromise properly. That's what I would like to see here. If we can manage 5% for trains, if we can manage 5% for police, then we can manage 5% for teachers, 5% for fire and rescue, 5% for ambulance, 5% for NHS, 5% in the education sector. I could go through them all right. But let's all just be pragmatic and hope that the budget can cover giving everybody 5%. Then we can settle these disputes and look at England as some sort of oddity. All right, also moving on, Monday. The Tories, remember, Northern Ireland exist. All right, with Chancellor Nadine Zahawi setting up a task force to get £400 aid to energy crisis for the energy crisis to families in Northern Ireland. All right. Now, also Monday, rail operators in England to increase rail fares by 3.8%. Further gouging a hard push families in the public. Right, the companies who made 500 million in profits during the quietest period in their history during COVID, they want to gouge more. All right. Now, the franchise providers said it was a bargain as they normally raise prices by the retail price index, which is currently at 11.8%. Now, the profiteers want to close every ticket off, as I said, in the UK, saving a vast amount of money. But we've just went through the vulnerable people who require railway staff that wouldn't be there anymore. if you just put machines in and shut down all the ticket offices and the railway staff. Who cleans the toilets at the railway if you deal with staff? You know, that sort of thing. Right, that's what I've got for you folks. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it entertaining. Let's have a wee look and see what the rags have got to say this morning. I haven't looked myself. I like to try and keep my reaction to the rags as real as possible for you. Okay, so let's move on to the rags. Right, what we got? I don't get the fucking right page. Pardon my French. No, don't pardon it, it's part of me. Right, Scotland's newspaper, new Omicron jab approved and Celtic star arrested. New Omicron jab to fight autumn COVID wave. That's in the eye. The Times goes on. Trust will target help with energy bills at poorest and over 50s to be called for new COVID jab in weeks. Right, climate could uncork Great British Reds. I don't know what that's all about. Right, the Daily Record has Celtic star arrested, defender Bernaby taken into custody after early morning incident in Glasgow. I believe the young fella was drink driving. Scottish Daily Mail has Tory frontrunners rally cry with promise to help boost sluggish Scottish economy. For a start, that's a fucking lie. Right, let's get to it. Inward investment in Scotland last year, 8.9%. Foreign investment. Inward investment in RUK, 1%. Early weekend, we're told that the UK has the biggest balance of trade deficit ever. Scotland doesn't have a balance of trade deficit. If it does have, it's not by much. And it would be Brexit related. But Scotland's had a balance of trade surplus for the last 30 years. We're an exporting nation. We're a lot of fish. So Truss vows, I'll take on out of touch Sturgeon. See, I look forward to this one. A debate between Liz Nicebit Dim and the international stateswoman, which is Liz Sturgeon. Miss Sturgeon. And by Christ, Miss Sturgeon will rip her a new one. Right, what we go to the other loony rag, that's the Scottish Daily Express. Truss, I will fight off bid to split union. No, you won't. You just won't, Liz. You can try, you can stamp your feet, you can sit in, but none of us can see an advantage to this fucking union. All we see is a failing form of governance, which is dragging our economy down, it's dragging our people down, and it's all because you people had some reserved powers which should be in the Scottish people's hands. I've just explained we don't have a balance of trade deficit. We're a big exporting nation. In fact, you buy 60% here because you're that shite at doing it yourself. We're a massive energy provider. We're a massive energy exporter. 22% of UK food and drink exports is one product, and that's Scottish whisky. We don't have a problem with the balance of trade, and Truss has got no chance, as that poll we spoke about just shows, of stopping the march to independence. Right, what's the Scotsman going on? Tory rivals vow to increase scrutiny of SNP decisions. And what are they going to set the standard against? Their scrutiny. Fucking idiots. The National has win-win for yes, independent supporters set for lift whoever new Tory PM is poll finds. And that's the poll we were just talking about. The Daily Telegraph has Royal Navy backs out of migrant patrols. So the Navy's basically, the Minister of Defence is basically tell the Home Office, fuck off, hire some border guards if you want to round up migrants in the sea. We've got more important things to do on national security. And after recent interest rate hikes, the banks accused of marooning savers on low interest rates. In other words, they're not passing the hikes on savers. And Sturgeon will be taken to task over SNP failures, promised Truss. And what's he going to measure these failures against? Well, what did he spoke about? Man, loonies. The Herald has millions earmarked for dental care goes unspent. Dental services have been shut down for the last 2 years, you muppets. But what the Herald's saying is Scots then to say huge underspend is because they can't afford to work. They can't afford to work. They just weren't allowed to work. And the Metro has my guilt that sons blaze death. And the Metro leads on the opening of a fatal accident inquiry into the blaze which killed two men at Cameron House Hotel in 2017. Well, with a few inquiries on that one. And the Star, what's the Star got for us a day? The Star's got a player in dock. I don't know why this isn't the Daily Star of Scotland, but here we go. Player in dock. This has very little to do with football. It's another chapter in a very old story. Men who rape and sexually assault women because they think they are powerful. And the main headline is Predator. And the Daily Star of Scotland says jury has heard Manchester City footballer Benjamin Mendy as a predator who turned the pursuit of women for sex into a game. So why the Daily Star in Scotland is running with an English story, I don't know. But as you know, with the press in the UK, in Scotland especially, but UK wide, it's pretty well, they set the narrative for each of the nations, and they're all set differently. I mean, up here we're dealt at Sturgeon's a drive for independence. At Sturgeon's India F2. Let me remind the viewing public what democracy is and what it means. When we go to vote, we read party manifestos and we elect the party we think would be best suited to govern us, and we do that based on their manifesto commitments. When they get into government, they get to implement that manifesto commitment. It's no Sturgeon's referendum. It's no SNP obsession with independence. It's the will of the Scottish people, which was clearly and evidently shown in an election. The majority want it. That is how democracy works unless you live in Scotland. Okay, folks, that's what I've got for you today. So let's wind this one up. All right, because you're wanting to get you there. Mainstream media now, as the narrative changes towards today. All right, so remember, folks, there is an independence campaign underway. We'll get Sunak and Truss up here trying to fight it today. They're in for a shock in Perth. They think they're coming up here to an adoring audience in that Perth theatre, I think it is, the new Perth theatre. They're going to walk in there to a bunch of crotchety old people and maybe 100 of them maximum. There's going to be 200, 300, 400, 500 outside, booing, singing and jeering. Whereas inside will be a bunch of old has-beens who are headed for the graveyard. And I don't mean that in a cruel way. It just happens to be a fact. So remember, there is a campaign underway. All right. So eyes on the prize. Put your partisan politics in your pockets. Get your eyes on the prize. Learn your how you gonies. Get out there and win over just one heart or mind. That's all you have to do. One. Davy's helped you because I now have a new employer who's pretty well full of people who intend to vote yes next time round. And I never asked him any questions. It just so happened that one of the bus drivers who comes in and out the place follows my blog. And he was talking to the other people about it when I started there. Anyway, so learn how you going is what is it? How you going to do borders? How you going to do trade? How you going to do currency? How you going to do military? How you going to do international trade? All the usual stuff. Well, the answer is the same to all the questions, the same way everybody else does it. We're a highly intelligent people and will copy and paste best practices. Now, moving on, support independent broadcasters, support Independence Live, support Broadcasting Scotland, Independence Live, Indie Live Radio, Caledon Media, Norrie's got a wee crowdfunder going if you can help them out, Trues Radio, and support the national newspaper, support independent bloggers and bloggers, and if they've got a crowdfunder on the way, please, if you've got a shekel to spare, before you run out of shekels to spare, throw them in a pot. These guys do great things. As you know, David and I don't want your money for the output that we're putting out. Never have, never will. If you do enjoy what we're doing and what I'm doing, can you please share the content around? And if you're viewing on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe. All right, that way you will notifications when I go live. Okie dokie. Now, there's a few events coming up that I need to mention. There's a march on in Inverness on Saturday this week. If you can get to Inverness, it's wide open boulevards. There's a plenty of fresh air. COVID's not going to be that much of a risk. It's an outdoor event. Then please get to Inverness on Saturday. You've got the details of it, where the march starts, where it ends, and time it starts, and how long the duration of the day is going to be, only all under one banner website. Okay. Also, the Indy 2 Cafe, a charity night at the General Motors Club in Holytown, 24th of September. Ticket prices are tenner. If you live in North Lancashire, South Lancashire, West Lothian, Glasgow area, even Forsyth, anywhere near that you can get there and you can afford a tenner for the ticket, you'll get your buffet, you'll get your entertainment, you'll get raffle tickets, and you'll be helping to feed those who are less fortunate than yourself here in the central belt of Scotland and wider, Dumfries and Galloway, across in Fife, and they'll go further afield. Whatever they raise in Inverness will probably end up in a charity in Inverness. That's the way the Indy 2 Cafe works. Okay, so if you can make it at crowdfunder, it's the 24th of September, 7:30. Contact Agnes Kerr at the Indy 2 Cafe. There's a PayPal account that will allow you to buy your tickets. Marvellous stuff. Right, health messaging, folks. As you know, we spoke about COVID earlier. New vaccination coming up and all. Make your own mind up. There should be a data dump coming about this new vaccine any day now. And if it's already there, somebody send the data dump to me, will you? Okay, now there's only 2 bits of guidance left, and that is you're asked to wear face coverings in enclosed public spaces, meaning trains, buses, taxis, shops, pharmacists, that sort of thing. And you're also asked to clean your hands and surfaces regularly. When it comes to social distancing, if you're not feeling well, mask up and show a wee bit of social responsibility and social distance from your neighbours when you have to be out. If you don't have to be out when you're not feeling well, don't be out. And if you're still testing with the NHS lateral flow test, please submit your results because it gives a fair idea of what's out there. Now, if you wonder who's still testing, then that'd be care workers and healthcare workers, but they live in the community as well, so it gives us a good view of what's happening in the community. Okay, and they don't just live in the community, they work in the community. Okay, you guys have a lovely day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. Thank you very much.